Have you ever moved towards a big goal and then found yourself not accomplishing it? Retreating, going back to the safety of the known. Stay tuned. Today I'm going to share with you the 4 mental processes for breaking through fear when it comes to setting big goals in business, in sales, and entrepreneurship. Kevin Yoder, Bob Proctor consultant and mental conditioning expert. I use science and psychology to help people break through and accomplish their most elusive personal and professional goals. What are the 4 mental processes for breaking through fear and going through to the goal that you had set? Such a powerful concept. We go for goals, we set goals, and then we move towards them. But there's something that gets in the way. And it's always fear. In the program that I help my clients with, the lesson is called How to Trample the Terror Barrier. And I love what Sandy Gallagher says. This is Bob Proctor's business partner. Bob Proctor is my mentor who taught me everything I'm sharing with you here today. Fear and growth go hand in hand. She said that when you courageously face the thing you fear, we've all heard about the cave we're afraid to enter. When you courageously face the thing we fear, you automatically experience the growth you've been seeking. So naturally then, knowing that, we have to go through a process. So what are the 4 mental processes for breaking through fear and accomplishing those big goals? I'll take you back to a previous lesson where we talked about paradigms. Paradigm is a multitude of habits that's lodged in our subconscious mind. And as I shared, the masters that have walked the planet, all great leaders have disagreed on virtually everything else except for the following. Our thoughts create things. Our thoughts create our reality. What we think about, we become. What we think about, we experience. And there's 100 ways to describe that. The best way to describe it here for purposes of this lesson, to help you break through to your goals and accomplish what you want to, is to understand that our body is a mass of molecules in a high speed of vibration. And I shared with you the image of the stick person in a previous lesson. If we understand that there is a great power that's flowing to us and through us, and we have the ability to give form, to give thought to that power, to impress upon it an idea and become emotionally involved with that. And when we do that, we can move into action, inspired action. And that's what this lesson is all about, is breaking through. We call it breaking through the terror barrier. We know that we're going to encounter fear along the way, but when we do, we can bust through it. And let me walk you through these 4 mental processes. We begin on the left with bondage. Bondage is a situation. Now, let's remember the stick person diagram so you know what I'm sharing with you here. Bondage, we call it X-type energy. We have X-type thoughts and X-type energy because we have a thought that's X, and X being bondage, meaning it's someone that hasn't set a big goal. So they're living out a life of a program that is usually handed, not usually, always handed to them by someone else. And so they're living a life based on the program of the paradigm, which is the lowest form of living. No goals, low vibration, X-type energy in the thought, and then X-type energy in the body, and that means that they have X-type results. Very poor results, very substandard. Now let's move on to the next step of the creation process. We have a goal. Let's say that someone decides they want to go for something. They get inspired to set a goal, which is one of the things that we teach in our program, to go for these big goals. So let's say they go for a big goal. Now let's call the goal Y. So we move from X to Y. Now Y is an idea. It's an idea in the mind. So we have an idea, Y, in the mind, and it's in the conscious mind. This is not in the subconscious mind yet. So now we have an idea, and the Y is in the conscious mind, not the subconscious mind. And we have X vibration in the body. Got it? Okay? But we haven't become emotionally involved in this yet. And this is the key here, is that as long as that Y idea remains in the conscious mind, there is no anarchy. There's no internal strife. It doesn't do the same thing that when we become emotionally involved with an idea. Because when we begin to impress a Y idea on the subconscious mind, that creates a disturbance within the body, within our central nervous system. And I'll walk you through that. That's what's called conflict. So we move from bondage, no goals at all. We move into reason, which is we think about a goal, but we're not emotionally involved in it. So no conflict in the body. Okay? Then when we move into conflict is when we have a why idea in the mind and we begin to impress that idea upon the subconscious mind, which is X-type energy. Are you beginning to see how that would create conflict? When we go for something big, so this is a big goal. This is something that is so far out there, so exciting, so far out there that you don't know how to accomplish it. And you become emotionally involved in that. That creates a disturbance. That means that when you're impressing the idea on the subconscious mind and you're becoming emotionally involved in it, then your body begins to, your central nervous system begins to go haywire. And that's why it's called conflict. We have why in the mind, we impress on the subconscious, which is X-type energy, and you can begin to feel that viscerally. You feel it. There's a conflict inside. Now, this is the point where most people, they move from conflict back to bondage because it's scary. It's scary. This is what we call the terror barrier. Bob Proctor coined this term, the terror barrier, something that sounds so scary, doesn't it? So we move back to what we call the safety of the known. This is back to where we were before. This is back into bondage. And unfortunately, that's usually where we end up. As I described to you before, the self-image, and in this case, a multitude of paradigms, the self-image is a part of the paradigm. It's like the thermostat in our home, and it controls and regulates the temperature of everything we get in our lives. Most people go about this by, they want to accomplish big things by messing with the thermometer instead of the thermostat. And so in order to really go for our goals, to accomplish them, we need to control, we need to work on the paradigms. We have to control what's going on inside. For a person to change their results, as Bob says, they must change their paradigms. And this requires strong conscious control over their thinking. Most people work with the thermometer, which is just the thing that tells us what the thermostat is reading. You see that? What the thermostat is controlled at. We have to go deep down. So let's go back to the image of the sick person moving from bondage to reason to conflict. Now we have internal strife, fear sets in, and most people retreat back. The safety of the known. We call it the safety of the known because it's where we've been before. We cower back down. It is safe and secure, and our mammalian brains do not want us to break through. Why? Well, because we're wired for safety and security. We're wired for procreation and survival. And so this does not look like procreation survival. This looks a lot like when we're going through into the break through the terror barrier to accomplish those big, massive goals. It looks a lot like risk. And our brains don't want us to do that. The paradigm is there. The paradigm keeps us boxed in. Keeps us boxed into where we are. It doesn't want us to break free. But when we do, when we break through, and the program that I help clients with helps us break through the terror barrier and come out the other side into what we call freedom. Freedom. Now, we're standing there in freedom. We've accomplished the goal. We've broken through the terror barrier. And what's awesome about that place is we now have a level of confidence based on going through the 4 stages, from bondage to reason to conflict. And now we stepped into freedom. And then we begin to realize that anything is possible. And this is a truly magical place because now when we go to set goals, we've been there before. We've set goals, we have confidence, we have a new level of confidence. And now when we climb the mountain, we look up because there's something that's even bigger and more exciting. And now we have the ability to do that by walking through those 4 mental processes, by busting through the terror barrier. We're on the other side of that. And now, what's possible? I think the answer is everything or anything. The question that you begin to ask yourself when you've broken through the terror barrier isn't, can I do this? It quite simply is, what do I want? And then the 2 follow-up questions we always ask now are, am I able and am I willing? And once we answer those 2 questions, we're on our way again. We're still going to start off in bondage. We're going to move through to reason. We're going to think about the goal. We're going to then shift into the 3rd mode, which is conflict. We're going to experience that, but we're going to have experience from the previous time doing it. So now we know what it is, and then we break through the terror barrier on the other side to freedom. And you do it over and over and over again. And this, friends, is exactly why we say the better it gets, the better it gets, because this is the universal wealth strategy. At its very best. I was fishing for my coin. I always show the coin that I carry in my pocket. It shows that there's the road to ruin, which is to think a thought based on existing conditions is to observe what is. And there's no amount of faith in observing what is. It simply is just observing what you manifested 6 months ago and what you've been thinking for the last 6 months. That's what's in front of you. No degree of faith required to stare at that and become emotionally involved with that. It takes a great amount of faith and courage to focus on what we want and become emotionally involved in that. That's why the flip side of the coin, the universal wealth strategy, is from the thinking from the upside down and from the inside out. What we want, not what is. It sets up a vibration in the body, which then puts us into a positive vibration, and then we go out and we act in the world. We have massive action because it's inspired by the thought, it's inspired by the vibration, it's inspired by the energy. We get the result we want, and round it goes, and it looks like this. The better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. And the opposite is also true. The worse it gets, the worse it gets. When we run that universal poverty strategy, it's the example I always give because it's the easiest, not because it's the only one, it's because it's the easiest one, is that when we stare at something that's right in front of us, I don't care if it's COVID-19 or the bank account or the sales sheet, we use that as a jumping off place. How does it make us feel? It makes us feel crummy inside. It sets up a low vibration. We go out and take action. Why are people not responding to me the way I want them to? Well, it's because you're vibrating at a low level. We can only attract to us what we are in vibrational harmony with. When we are in vibrational harmony with lack and limitation, we attract more of it to us. We go out in the world, we act, we perform action that's not based on inspired action, but just action. And then we get the response that we don't like, and we observe that response, and we start all over again. It's a vicious cycle. It's a downward spiral. We've all heard of people that go on a downward spiral. That's exactly how it works or why it works. There's a science and psychology behind this. If this is something you want to know more about, how to trample the terror barrier, you can schedule a call with me. There's a free report. Click on the link below. It's an article titled Decision, written by Bob Proctor. This article is, and there's a free download. Just download that and read it through. And I recommend that you do that over and over again, several times a day. This article Decision it touches on some things that we talked about today, that this idea that the most successful people, Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. He interviewed hundreds of billionaires at the turn of the century, and they found out that there's a common denominator, that all successful people, they make decisions quickly and they change their minds slowly, if at all. And so in order to even walk through the 4 mental processes that are designed to help you break through the terror barrier, the first thing required is that you need to make a committed decision. So this article goes well with this lesson here today of the terror barrier. Download the Decision article. It'll really help you. If you want to schedule a call with me, there's also a link below, and we schedule a breakthrough call, and we walk through a similar process like this, and I help you break through. My name is Kevin Yoder. I'm a Bob Proctor consultant and mental conditioning expert. As you know, I use science and psychology to help people accomplish their most elusive personal and professional goals by walking them through mental processes like this and have them break through the terror barrier. I look forward to seeing you next time.